You are live, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, let's call to order the City Council meeting, the regular meeting for May 25th. Before the roll call, the City Attorney has an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The procedures adopted for this meeting meet or exceed the standards set forth in Governor Gavin Newsom's Order N-25-20, which allows this public meeting to be held by teleconference to prevent the spread of COVID-19. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to conduct roll call and ask the mayor to recognize me after to confirm certain matters for the record.
Councilmember Armstrong?
Here.
Councilmember Barros?
Yes.
Councilmember Safar?
Here.
Vice Mayor Perkins?
Here.
And Mayor Hudson?
Here, recognize the City Attorney.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. And based on the responses to the roll call, the record should reflect that all council members can hear the proceedings clearly. And if there are no objections, the record will further reflect that each council member is certain that persons representing themselves to be council members tonight are in fact council members. And seeing no objection, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor, and remind the council that all votes must be taken by roll call.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any announcements or changes and additions to the agenda, Madam Clerk?
There are no additions or changes this evening.
So we're just rolling right along then. Okay. 3.2, where did I do the 3.2? Why do I have this different? Well, anyway, if you wish to speak on a public comment on or regarding an agenda item, please click the raise your hand button on your computer or *9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment is being taken on the agenda item. You will then be unmuted when it is your turn to make your comments up to 3 minutes. After the allotted time, you will then be remuted. Boards, committee, and commission meetings. A complete list of upcoming meetings may be found on the city website at www.sanramon.ca.gov. Subscription services available at the link for automatic meeting notices. Contact the city clerk with questions 973-2539. Public comment is now open. Members of the audience are encouraged to address the City Council on any non-agenda item. Members of the public who are participating via Zoom will have the opportunity to make comments to the City Council live through the Zoom application. Comments from the public on non-agenda items may also be submitted by email to cityclerk@sanramon.ca.gov. Comments received by email will not be read aloud. However, they will be forwarded to the council for their consideration. If you wish to present your comments to the public, you may do so via Zoom or telephone during this public comment period or the second public comment period later in the meeting. No council action can be taken at this meeting on issues raised during public comment, whether submitted by email or Zoom. Those wishing to have an item brought before the City Council for consideration must request so during a City Council meeting. Upon council approval, the item will be placed on the Council Policy Committee agenda for further consideration. At this time, the public is permitted to address the City Council on items that are on the consent calendar, requests for future agenda items, special presentation items under Section 6 of tonight's agenda, and items that are not on the agenda. Okay, I see attendees. We're 5 wishing to speak under public comment. Let's start off with Luz Gomez.
Good evening, council members.
Hi, Luz.
Thank you. It's lovely to see you. So dear Mayor Hudson, council members, staff, and fellow residents, as a 41-year resident of San Ramon and a recent appointee to the Contra Costa County Sustainability Commission, I would like to speak today on a number of issues related to climate change and my aspirations for our lovely city. As you well know, the window of opportunity to address the most dire consequences of climate change is quickly closing. Many have termed this decade the deciding decade. We need all hands on deck, and we need them now. The time is perfect for San Ramon to act on climate in an ambitious and inspirational way. We can lead our region and beyond if we dare to research and adopt some of the most forward-thinking policies to date. As we prepare to update the city's climate action plan and general plan, I ask the City Council to address the following at an upcoming meeting. First, I would like the city to consider creating a resident task force to help update the climate action plan. The traditional ways of engaging residents in draft planning documents is simply not enough. Not now. We have residents with expertise and passion who want to make sure this plan seriously addresses this critical moment in our city's history. Second, please declare climate emergency. Join over 1,000 jurisdictions that have already done so. This will raise the city's level of engagement and awareness on climate action. And I said earlier, we need all hands on deck. Finally, as you consider next year's budget, please consider setting aside funds for hiring a sustainability coordinator. It is clear to me from my interactions with many jurisdictions around the region that such a position is critical to make headway on these issues. As an update, the county's Sustainability Committee of the Board of Supervisors met yesterday, and they recommended that the county adopt a REACH ordinance mandating that most new buildings be all electric, no more natural gas. They're also aggressively planning to increase their electric vehicle fleet, and I hope our city not only follows their lead, but becomes a leader on its own on these issues. Thank you very much for your attention to these matters today.
Thank you. Mary Lou Oliver.
Good evening, Council.
Hi, Mary.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
I am a 50-year resident of San Ramon, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm also a former mayor and city council member. I am asking you this evening to consider having the Council and Planning Commission, perhaps in a workshop, look at the general plan guidelines and give direction to the Planning Commission with regard to building setbacks, especially with all the condos and apartments that are in the pipeline for Bishop Ranch. The Planning Commission and Council seem to have had no problem with buildings with minimum setbacks, some coming right up to the sidewalk. For example, Alta, which I personally consider to be the ugliest structure in the city of San Ramon, as well as ABC Vet, the new sushi place on San Ramon Valley Boulevard, and other buildings farther north on San Ramon Valley Boulevard. I feel it's inconsistent with possible future traffic plans as more and more emphasis is directed toward bicycles, scooters, autonomous cars, walking, and whatever people moving fad comes along. I hate to see the city get into the same pickle that Fremont is, for example, being able to widen streets for left turn lanes because there is no right of way for them to do so. To think we are going to have less traffic in the future is an unreasonable expectation. And having jammed up streets intermixed with more vulnerable means of transport, I think is idealistic. There should be room in the future for everyone. The Bishop Ranch concept drawings have little or no extra room between the sidewalks and the buildings. I hope you will consider building setbacks to a thought with the future, my tongue is tied tonight, of San Ramon, both practically and visually. And thank you so much for the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Is it Sarvani Chakrabarti? Did I get that correct? Sarvani?
Mayor Hudson,
Yes, go.
or I also go by Rita Chakrabarti. So good evening, Mayor Hudson, members of the City Council. My name is Rita Chakrabarti, and I'm a long-term resident of San Ramon. About a month ago, I submitted a request to proclaim June 4th as Gun Violence Awareness Day. On Friday, I was informed that the request was rejected, specifically that the City of San Ramon has guidelines for recognition of individuals, groups, and events of significance to the San Ramon community, and this request does not qualify. I'm here to urge Mayor Hudson and City Manager Gordon to revisit this decision and see how this proclamation actually does affect our San Ramon community. Gun violence has permeated all cities, small and large, and San Ramon is not immune to this. We too have experienced the trauma that affects a community mourning loved ones and fearing gun-related crimes. Gun violence is seen not just when crimes are committed, but also in the quiet of our homes, when mental health issues become overwhelming and a split-second decision to take one's own life seems the only way out of an untenable situation. June 4th is National Day of Gun Violence Awareness, to honor such lives lost and to honor the survivors who bear the grief in the aftermath of gun violence. By my understanding, this proclamation request fully qualifies for the first criteria in the city guidelines, namely issues with widespread community interest or concern, with a primary emphasis on requests that are in support of City Council goals and objectives. The issue of gun violence is an issue of widespread community concern. As mentioned before, we in our community have experienced loss and trauma from gun violence. Recognizing this by proclaiming June 4th as Gun Violence Awareness Day sends a message to our community that we care for those individuals and families in our community, we honor their lives, and we stand with them in support. And isn't keeping our city safe one of the City Council's important objectives? Keeping our city safe from gun violence should fall into that goal, should it not? Today, the City Council is recognizing May 22nd through 28th as National Safe Boating Week. Boating safety is certainly necessary, but by the same token, so is gun violence prevention, and so is recognizing and honoring those among us who live with this grief every day. So Mayor Hudson and City Manager Gordon, please consider these points, and I hope that you will come to the conclusion that, in fact, proclaiming June 4th as Gun Violence Awareness Day is a necessary objective as well. Thank you very much, and thank you for letting me speak this evening.
Thank you. Subak? You have to unmute, Sue.
There you go. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I can be a good commercial. Thank you, Mayor Hudson and City Council for hearing my concerns today about the city's environmental stand. The Climate Action Plan will be reviewed this year, and it will take 2 years to complete. We need to make changes now before the Climate Action Plan is completed, though. In 2 years, we will be way behind schedule. While we're waiting, the city can certainly create and implement practical policies to bridge the gap. For instance, banning single-use and multi-use plastic bags and styrofoam across all businesses and encouraging drought-tolerant landscaping like I have in my front yard. The city of San Ramon needs a climate commission to help create, implement, and regulate climate-smart policies alongside the Planning Commission. The commission will likely help to take pressure off the city staff and administration for normal everyday activities, along with a climate coordinator that Luz Gomez mentioned. We do not have to reinvent the wheel here in San Ramon. We can reach out to our fellow cities such as Fremont, Burlingame, Walnut Creek, and San Jose to come to the same goal of greening California. The share of knowledge will be valuable and expeditious. In fact, on the most recent Contra Costa County Climate Leaders Symposium, Segal Michael of the city of Burlingame offered help, just like the rest of the city councils in the area. They are willing to help. We're not in a competition to cross the finish line. We're in this together. That means San Ramon, the Bay Area, and California. Thank you for your consideration. And again, I urge you to have a climate commission that's alongside with the Planning Commission and to help implement it, implement all the plans that San Ramon plans to have by having a climate coordinator. Thank you.
Thank you. Harsha Lakshmanan, did I get that right?
Hi there. Thanks so much. You did get it right. Thanks so much for allowing me to speak, Mayor Hudson and the council.
Thank you for calling.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Well, I wanted to address the same thing that's already been addressed by two people ahead of me. Both Luis Gomez and Sue Bach addressed this, and I would like to just stress the same point pretty much. The climate action plan, waiting for 2 years to do something puts us way behind where we need to be. This is an amazing city. And no, I've not been a long-time resident like the others who spoke earlier, but I've been here for about 5 years. And this is one of the best planned cities in the area and has always taken the lead in making sure that we're inclusive in what we do, not just of the people, but the environment around us. And this is yet another opportunity for us to take that lead and move it forward by doing something now, not waiting for 2 years. I mean, the fires over the last few years, the drought that we're in, have clearly told us we need to do something. And not doing anything and waiting 2 years to come back with a plan, I think is waiting too long. So I do appreciate your help in making this happen and creating a citizens task force that would help to make this a reality faster than what we can do after a 2 year, essentially an excursion to find out what we should be doing. We know what to do. We do have some experts in the city. There are many experts in the city on climate, and we should utilize their efforts, utilize their talent. So again, once again, I appreciate the council's time, and thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. And our last speaker is call-in user 1, the mystery guest. Unmute, Helen.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm appalled that 3 speakers before me seem to know each other. They're not just citizens of San Ramon, they're activists living in San Ramon. And we all know very well that they're part of the push for the Green New Deal. That is part of the Biden administration that is really benefiting foreign countries like Communist China because they make batteries. And if we want to, if we really care about our environment, what we can do is start setting up drone surveillance to catch arsonists who have been setting fires that burn acres and acres of our good forests. And we should also stop the Democrat government in California and urge Governor Newsom or whoever will replace him after the recall to stop draining good water into the ocean, to keep the water away from the farmer in the name of some strange fish that nobody has ever seen. Those are honest climate solutions that the Democrats are refusing to admit and take care of, and instead they want us to spend thousands or millions of dollars to go towards Green New Deal, which will make us basically powerless in the future because they don't know what that is going towards. Electric cars, it's going to give us millions of batteries, car batteries that we either have to shoot into the space or that we have to burn, but the batteries are so toxic. Those are awfully environmentally unfriendly, which they don't talk about. The alternative for a good environmental car, in my opinion, is a hydrogen car. We should look into hydrogen cars, but we should also keep fossil fuel cars because they are what is proven working for modern societies, and we should not just pen them away because politicians and interest groups and Wall Street want us to. I strongly oppose that. And in terms of gun violence day, if it's already a national day, there is no need for our city to do something that is redundant. Our city should take every day that our city set aside as a special day with very careful consideration for community specific issues or causes. So for something that is already national or state ratified, I don't think that it's our city's jurisdiction to duplicate the same efforts. I do want to mention that our special meetings should not restrict speakers to only public comments because people might come in late. And the Browns Act actually allow people to speak after presentation. I also object budget matters to be discussed in special meetings because the time is so inconvenient. That's when people are stuck in traffic. They cannot participate freely. I urge the council to please consider those issues that affect everyone to not be put in a special meeting, but in regular council meeting agenda. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any written public comments?
We received one written comment for this item, and she also spoke during public comment.
Okay, I missed that one then. All right, then public comment is closed. Consent calendar items are considered routine or acted upon by the city council with a single action. Members of the audience wishing to provide public input may request so by mail. Did we have anybody by mail request to take one off?
No.
That means that the city council removed the item from the consent calendar. If we'd had one, we didn't. Does anybody wish to take any item 5.1 through 5.9? Or
I can move 5.1
motion-
to 5.9.
motion
Oh.
Zafar,
I'll second.
second Perkins. Any discussion? Seeing none. Can I have a roll call vote?
Councilmember Armstrong,
Yes.
Councilmember Veros,
Yes.
Councilmember Safar,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Yes.
and Mayor Hudson.
Yes,
Thank
sounds
you.
like 5-0 to me. Okay, special presentation. Comments for this section may be taken during public comment. There were none. So let's move on to the Art and Wind Festival update by Recreation Supervisor Stephen Cox. And I understand you have a video for us with our poet laureate. Where is Stephen?
I am here. Good evening, Mayor Hudson, fellow city council members,
Yes.
and members of the public. So thank you for having me here tonight. We will start. Christina is going to pull up our Art and Wind Festival flyer and marketing material. So you should have that there in front of you. And I'm pleased to be here tonight to provide you information on this year's upcoming Art and Wind Festival Spirit Week. That does start today and will continue through May 31st. That's the Monday of Memorial Day. As you're aware, the format of the Art and Wind Festival plan for Memorial Day weekend this year changed due to the continuing COVID-19 pandemic under the guidelines provided by the state of California and Contra Costa County regarding large community events. In lieu of the traditional Art and Wind Festival, the city of San Ramon is celebrating the spirit of the festival by providing a variety of activities through the week that can be done virtually, at home, or in a San Ramon park. Our staff worked across departments and divisions to offer a broad array of activities for the whole community to participate in. It was important that the activities were created for all ages and could take place in a variety of ways throughout the community. I also wanted to recognize and give special thanks to Chevron for their generous contribution to the Art and Wind Festival Spirit Week, which provided us an opportunity to plan so many wonderful different activities for the community. And in the spirit of Art and Wind Festival, a week-long calendar of activities was created to allow the whole community to participate at their own availability, at their own ability to take in different locations. And as you see, we've come to the second page here of our marketing material, but you'll see we've created a whole list of different activities. And that takes place over the course of the whole week, starting this evening. And on the calendar events, you'll find that we have virtual programs, all week long activities and activities that can be done at home or at your local park, in addition to Central Park, where the traditional festival would take place. I also wanted to point out that the San Ramon Community Center will be open during the week and over the weekend so that people can pick up their Art and Wind Spirit swag bags while supply lasts. So if you have the opportunity, or the community has the opportunity, beginning tomorrow, we have our Art and Wind Festival Spirit bags, and we hope that the community can come in. They pick up their bags. We have a great little area that people can take a picture in front of a backdrop. We also have our previous Art and Wind Festival artwork up in the Lindsay Dirks Brown Gallery right now. And we also have our wish tree out in front of the community center that people can write a wish in an origami kite and hang it on our wish tree. So lots of items starting as of tomorrow, and then of course continuing through the rest of the week. So we have these all listed also on our website at artandwind.com. So beyond just seeing it here this evening, you can go to the website. We have all the activities listed there, and also have this flyer available for download or print if so wish wanted to as well. And with that, I'm now also pleased to be able to present a reading of an original poem created for the Art and Wind Festival Spirit Week that's called Wind and Kites and Art and String. That was written by Poet Laureate Jeneth Jo Gerhart Uchin. We are going to pull up the poem here. Hopefully you can see the poem that was written for this Spirit Week, and then also has the voice of Jeneth reading the poem, which I believe Christina will start here.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Stephen, that first line has never been truer.
For the 2021 Art and Wind Festival, I'd like to present my poem, Wind and Kites and Art and String. San Ramon winds tumble our umbrellas, tilt pop-ups anchored with sandbags, glide dragon-tailed kites across the sky. The dips and flips of the trick kite make all of us laugh. I follow the trickster's strings, find two children trying to control the kite, and am reminded of what I'm tethered to, where I've tied knots, and where a single pull will set me free very, very soon. At home, many of us crafted multicolored string projects, wrapped string or yarn around nail heads to make art, form words like home or family. I imagined each nail head was a friend I tethered to love. Many of us are attached to new dogs on a leash. We look forward to loosening the ties on our masks. It is easy to smile when we think about everyone we're going to hug this summer, very, very soon.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay, is there anything further you have on the presentation or an update? It says video, but that is the video, correct?
That is the video, the reading of the poem. Yes. Yes, that is it.
So we're going to open up next week, and this wind is not going to mysteriously stop after 18 months of continuous blow. It seems I have never played so many golf rounds in the wind as I have. That it has to be, you've got to be looking at a 10 to 20. Well, I guess we're not going to have anybody there, are we? You want to send a couple of people out there just so people can see a kite?
We're going to have some very large kites, though. I mean, extreme large kites, so people, if they are out in the community, can come out and see those very large kites fly. And it does actually take quite a tremendous amount of wind to get those large kites up in the air. So we could use a little extra wind over the weekend.
I don't think you're going to have a problem with that. Clarifying questions. Starting with you, Mark. You're almost going. I can see it.
No questions, but love the poem. Thank you very much, Janet Joe, for that. And Steve, thanks for representing Parks and presenting the Art and Wind Festival information. All the changes for this year. Hopefully, we'll be back on track as we normally do next year. But it's a great program. Made some great accommodations due to our current pandemic situation. And it looks like a lot of fun. So thank you.
Thank you. Former Parks Commissioner Veros, you have 2 cents to add.
Sure. Thank you very much to city staff, especially our Parks and Community Services. One of the thing right now, the residents are looking forward for some happy event, right? So I'm very glad that this event, even though with all these restrictions that we have, but still our city staff could able to pull this event. Thank you very much. And also, as in the poem said, like we are looking forward to losing all our masks so that we can see each other in person and meet and enjoy. And definitely, I'm sure residents are looking forward for this event, and I'm also going to enjoy this event. Thank you once again for making this happening.
Thank you, Sridhar. Sabina.
Yeah, one I was going to say, just, a good decision to do this still virtual. I know we were thinking about whether this should be in person or not, and seems like we're still, still not there yet to have large crowds. So I think that was a good call out earlier in the year to go virtual with this. I was going to ask, are we going to have the usual banners up anyways, even though we won't have the event to kind of create that Art and Wind feeling in the community? Do you guys plan to do that?
The banners that usually go out on the streets will not be up this year, but at the park, we are going to be putting up some of our feather flags just to signify that people can go out into the park and utilize the park. We do want to make sure we respect the current guidelines, but allow people to go out and still have a good time of their own accord. So that's what we're looking to make it fun in the park when they enjoy these different activities. So it will look a little bit different though in that regards.
And we do have a brand new flagpole up. So I brainstormed something with the city manager. Maybe, we can bring some attention to our Art and Wind Festival there. The other question some people asked me wasn't really clear how to join the virtual events. So what's the best way to join the virtual events? Is it our city's YouTube, and will we get some communication out there?
Yes, the best way to engage with those virtual activities is to go on the website, and that's at artandwind.com. So we do have different activities. If you do, and the community comes in and picks up the swag bag, they'll get some activities, and then those same activities, those crafts, they'll be able to go back, and on the website, we give directions, we give guidance on how to go utilize those different items. And so there are both things that you can do inside your home. There's things that you can do in your backyard or go out to a local park. And that is on the website. So we try to explain all those different ways you can really enjoy the spirit of the Art and Wind Festival through that means.
And then I'm personally excited about being able to watch the movies in person, socially distant in the Doherty Valley Art Center. So, or what are we calling the Doherty Valley Theater? So I think that's pretty cool that we can do that. So thank you so much for planning this.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up, because we are going to have those movies. We are asking that pre-registration is still required so we can meet the criteria and the guidelines. And so if you do go onto the website, there's a phone number and also an email address to email the box office, and that way you can pre-register and get your tickets for those movies.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor Perkins.
Thank you. I want to thank Janet Joe for such a timely and thoughtful poem, original poem. That was really nice. I like that. I want to thank the Parks and Community Services staff for such inventive and thoughtful ways to replace such a hallmark event that the city has been putting on for a long time.
And I want to thank Chevron for stepping up and helping support those events, and so that we could do it as widely as possible. And I'd like to point out, it starts today, you said. So get over there tomorrow if you haven't been already.
Thank you, Scott. No council action is required on this one, Stephen, but you get the impression that we're very impressed with what everyone is doing over there. So keep up the good work, and looking forward to get all the success stories we're going to hear after Memorial Day. Thanks once again. Next, we have a proclamation declaring May 22 through 28 as National Safe Boating Week. And I have a presentation for Greg Olson. He is the commander of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary. If we can bring him in, because he may want to
He's there.
Say a few words afterwards.
All right. So
Greg, let me start off with the proclamation, then I'll ask if you have a couple words for it. We have a proclamation of City Council, City of San Ramon, declaring May 22nd through the 28th as National Safe Boating Week. Whereas for nearly 100 million Americans, boating continues to be a popular recreational activity enjoyed from coast to coast. And whereas during National Safe Boating Week, the U.S. Coast Guard and its federal, state, and local safe boating partners encourage all boaters to explore and enjoy America's beautiful waters responsibly. And whereas the Coast Guard estimates that human error accounts for most boating accidents and that life jackets could prevent nearly 86% of boating fatalities. And whereas through basic boating safety procedures, carrying life-saving emergency distress and communication equipment, wearing life jackets, attending safe boating courses, participating in free boat safety checks, and staying sober when navigating, we can help ensure boaters on America's coastal, inland, and offshore waters stay safe throughout the season. And whereas the National Safe Boating Week is observed to bring attention to important life-saving tips for recreational boaters so that they can have a safer, more fun experience out on the water throughout the year. And whereas on average, 600 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the United States, 79% of these fatalities caused by drowning. And whereas the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors. And whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today had they worn their life jackets. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of San Ramon hereby supports the goals of the Safe Boating Campaign and proclaims May 22nd through the 28th as National Safe Boating Week and the start of the year-round efforts to promote safe boating. We urge all of those who boat to practice safe boating habits and wear a life jacket at all times while boating. Thank you very much, Mr. Olson, for being here. I was absolutely amazed when I saw that 100 million figure. I mean,
yeah,
you have really got your hands full. Anyway, some comments that you would like to add.
Yeah, thank you to the mayor, vice mayor, and city council members for inviting me to come and speak with you tonight. Due to the pandemic, I was unable to address the council this time last year. And also, we've had an election in the intervening period. So I'd like to first introduce myself to all of the members again, and to the Coast Guard Auxiliary. Then I'll discuss National Safe Boating Week, and then discuss some of the activities of our local San Ramon Valley Flotilla. So first of all, I'm Greg Olson. I'm the commander of the East Bay Division of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary. Yeah, I've got a promotion in the last 2 years. I'm also a resident of San Ramon. Who the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary is, we are the uniformed civilian volunteer side of the United States Coast Guard. We are civilians who volunteer our time to further the missions of the United States Coast Guard, specifically in recreational boating safety, but also any and all authorized missions for the Coast Guard that do not involve either military missions or direct law enforcement. So these include things like search and rescue and marine environmental protection. Most of the members in the auxiliary dedicate between 200 and 400 hours every year to volunteering. And the auxiliary itself is organized into local flotillas, one of which is right here in San Ramon. When we weren't forced to meet entirely virtually, we used to meet at the San Ramon Valley Fire District offices on Bollinger Canyon. To discuss a little bit about National Safe Boating Week, the principal, the National Safe Boating Week is a public awareness campaign principally, and it's run by the United States Coast Guard and its safe boating partners. So this includes city, state, local boating commissioners, regulators, and you will be hearing this week a number of public service announcements, for example, in the media around wearing life jackets. And I'm going to mainly focus my remarks on the importance of life jackets in this area. You know, according to U.S. Coast Guard data, which is from 2019, is the most current, California ranked second in boating accidents and third in boating fatalities. Wow. So those are not great numbers. So California has instituted an education requirement to legally operate a boat. The members of the public must attend a 8-hour safe boating course and get what's called a California boater card, which is proof that they've had that course. It's not a license, it's just proof you've had the course. The statistics are improving, but we have a long way to go. One of the crucial ones is wearing life jackets. As mentioned, 86% of fatalities could be prevented by wearing a life jacket. And I want to now dive into why that is, especially in this area. In our lakes, rivers, and bay, the water temperatures are between 50 and 60 degrees. It's cold. And cold water immersion is really the danger that life jackets are protecting people from. There's 4 stages of cold water immersion. The first stage is an involuntary gasp reflex where people gasp, oh my gosh, it's cold. And if they're not wearing a life jacket to hold their head above water, they're likely to aspirate water. In 50-degree water, let's say, a person has between 15 and 30 minutes, depending upon what they're wearing and their body type, to be able to self-rescue, swim back to a boat or swim to shore. Outside that window, they're going to suffer what's called swim failure, which is what happens when your body is immersed in cold water. Physiologically, it restricts the flow of blood to your extremities, which then you lose your ability to swim after that. So that's the biggest risk. If you're not wearing a life jacket, at that moment, you're likely to drown. The third stage is passing into hypothermia, which everyone's usually aware of. It begins with severe shivering, then the shivering stops, confusion sets in, and eventually loss of consciousness as the body's core temperature gets lower. The fourth stage is what's called peri-rescue collapse. And this is a danger that people who are hypothermic but were rescued face. And this is where when you've been in a life-threatening situation, your body produces stress hormones, which increases your vital functions. When you're rescued, those hormones go away, and then your body may collapse physiologically. So one of the things that we train the public in all of my safe boating classes is if someone is hypothermic and you have pulled them out of the water, you treat them gently because cold tissues can be injured more easily, and activate emergency medical support and get that person to shore and to an ambulance where they're equipped to handle a situation where somebody, for example, goes into cardiac arrest. So that's, really important. All of these things can be avoided with life jackets, right? And so we want to focus on that activity, especially amongst a lot of the young kids that are practicing water sports in the area. I want to now cover some of the activities of the flotilla because I haven't been able to update you for 2 years on our activities. So we're currently sitting at 52 members in the San Ramon Valley Flotilla. We're drawing everywhere from Livermore, Castro Valley, San Ramon, Danville, Alamo for our membership. The flotilla is actually ranked in the top 10% of flotillas nationwide in per member productivity. So it's a very active, engaged flotilla. Although activities were severely restricted in 2020, we weren't, part of, nationwide lockdowns is the United States Coast Guard restricted all face-to-face activity with the public. So, which basically put us all into hibernation until things started getting lifted. But in 2019, we had a lot of activity, which included, some participation with the city. We had a double wide booth at the Art and Wind Festival with marlin spike seamanship and environmental protection diorama, handing out literature. We're usually located right with the fire department. So after the people come see them cut up the car, we then, they can come over and visit our booth. We also were at the annual safety fair, had a tabletop there talking about water safety and life jacket use. We graduated 127 students from safe boating classes in the region. Our telecommunications land mobile facilities. This is basically a member and a truck with a bunch of radios. Were called out 7 times to assist first responders in setting up a unified command post. The situation is many first responder organizations have radios that don't speak to each other because they're on different frequencies. So we come with multiple radios tuned to everything and are able to basically relay messages between the different agencies. And our major highlights were our air crews with their planes conducted 2 search and rescue missions. Unfortunately, no lives were saved, but there were 2 search and rescue missions, and our boat crews saved 2 lives on San Francisco Bay in 2019. So want to applaud the boat crews for plucking a couple of stranded people out of the middle of San Francisco Bay who were being swept out to the ocean. Now that we're opening up, we're getting underway again in our missions. Boating safety classes are happening. I just graduated 11 students from my class 4 weeks ago. We tend to offer a class monthly. Our aviators are back in the air and our boat crews are back on the water. What we're hoping for is that next year, the elementary schools are able to bring us back in for school assemblies, because our what's called Boats and Kids program, which is a 25-minute school seminar, which teaches some kids about basic water safety, which we've been running here in the San Ramon Valley for 20 years, and we actually took national and is now being conducted around the country. That program, we can't be certain how many lives we saved, but we know we saved at least 2 when we received a letter from a parent where her 2 boys basically used what we taught them to avoid getting hypothermic when their boat capsized on Donner Lake that they had taken out. So it's a really worthwhile program that we're running, and we generally touch, over 1,000 kids each year. So we're hoping we can start doing that again. I'll just conclude my remarks by saying we're thankful to have support from the city in advancing this public awareness campaign for National Safe Boating Week, and the continued support in the execution of our missions around recreational boating safety. And with that, I'll open it to any questions you may have.
Okay, comments or questions? Vice Mayor Perkins, you unmuted first.
Yeah, let's see here. Okay, I want to thank Commander Olson for coming tonight and presenting. and for the work you do all year long. It isn't just one night, obviously. It's an all year thing. And as the commander of the unit, I know your duties are widespread and almost totally consuming. I've been a CO myself, and I know there is no time off the clock. And I thank you for the work you do.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you so much.
Sabina?
I was going to say thank you, Commander, for coming here and educating us today. I've learned a lot with what you've shared. I'm sure Scott and the mayor have heard you before, and we've done this proclamation. But for me, there's been a lot of learning around boat safety and what you do here out in the community. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, Member Barros, and then we'll wrap up with Army.
Thank you, Commander Olson, and to United States Coast Guard Auxiliary for all your volunteer services to protect our community, especially the boating community. As Council Member Jafar said, this is first time for me too. It's fantastic information. Like I'm really surprised that there is so much work is being done behind the scenes to keep our boaters safe. I'm definitely going to go back and watch this video to take notes from this, from your presentation. Thank you very much once again for all your services.
Thank you very much.
Member Armstrong.
Yeah, likewise, Commander Olson. I just want to thank you for your comments this evening. I learned quite a bit myself. I wasn't aware of all that was going on with the auxiliary and the flotilla, so I appreciated that information. And I think your message is timely as we get closer to the summer and people are getting back out on the water and we're coming out of COVID. I think there's going to be more and more opportunities for people to get out and get out on the water. And this is a good, nice, healthy reminder for people to be safe and take all those precautions that they ought to be doing to basically have fun and come back home alive. And so thanks for all that you do and your organization.
Yeah. Very well said, Mark.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I have to tell you that when you were talking about the cold and you brought up Donner Lake, actually, I think I remember the date, September 15th, 1982. They were doing the world's toughest triathlon in Lake Tahoe. And for the first time I can remember, when you came out of the lake, it was colder. And the only reason I remember that is because I was stupid enough to be running in running shorts around the lake that day. It's not funny. Hypothermia is serious business, and all the things you described. And I hope a lot of people were taking notes. I think we have this recorded. I would suggest some of you, if you're going boating, or especially on lakes like Donner, because I don't think it gets much above 34 degrees at any time.
Right.
That you pay attention to this, because it's serious. You can get in the water, but you can't get out. You just lose it. Anyway, thank you very much for your time and coming out tonight. I thought it was very informative, and I think all of our council did. And I know that there are a lot of people out there thinking, gosh, I didn't know that, but 100 million people, my goodness, that you got your hands full with that one. And
Yeah.
Thank you very much for what you do.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, there is no action taking on this or required. So we are on to deferred consent items. There are none. No city council appointments. No unfinished business. The new business. 10.1 is the Teen Council Annual Report, and I believe there's an introduction by Recreation Supervisor Jennifer Galt.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and members of the public. Thank you for having us this evening. My name is Jennifer Galt with the Parks and Community Services Department. I'm happy to be here today to introduce Amrita Ramesh, who is the Teen Council Chair and Student Commissioner. The Teen Council had quite the interesting year being remote and not having a chance to meet in person. They were able to accomplish some really great things still while they navigated that remote learning and being isolated at home. I'd like to take this opportunity to commend Amrita for all of her hard work and dedication. It was not easy keeping everybody on task and engaged, but she did a wonderful job this year. She also set a great example for the vice chair, Johnavy, who's going to be taking the lead next year. So now I'll turn it over to Amrita, who's going to be presenting the annual report. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for offering me the opportunity to present in front of you today. I am so grateful to the City Council overall for taking time to recognize the Teen Council and moreover, provide teens in San Ramon with the opportunity to engage in civic issues. Today, I'll be sharing what the Teen Council has been working on over this past year. So as a quick acknowledgement of our history, the Teen Council was founded 27 years ago in 1994. It is an advisory group of 17 teens who are passionate about the city, local government, and advocating for the teen community. The Teen Council is chaired by me and vice chaired by Genevieve Thanamala, who will be our chair next year. These are the members and alternates who make up the Teen Council. In the Teen Council, we have 3 subcommittees: community outreach, programming, and public relations. The Community Outreach Subcommittee focused on marketing and promoting our Teen Council initiatives throughout the year through the creation of flyers, in-class presentations, and more. Most notably, the Community Outreach Subcommittee led the Ambassador Program, from recruiting and selecting applicants from middle and high schools in our area to coordinating ambassador meetings and the program structure. With our ambassadors, the subcommittee is working to create a web series showcasing teen leaders in our communities, mental health counselors, and other leaders who can address topics pertinent to teens. The programming subcommittee focused on our current programs. While we usually would have carried out senior technology days throughout the year, the subcommittee transitioned to hosting a senior live lounge in partnership with the senior advisory committee in order to connect teens with isolated senior citizens. The programming subcommittee also worked on a video project to highlight locations in San Ramon that teens can go to, such as the City Center and Central Park. The video project will be uploaded to a virtual platform for teens to access. The last subcommittee is public relations. The PR subcommittee kicked off our year with the Outstanding Teen Citizenship Award. This year, we received a record of 24 applicants and selected Vishak Arora as our scholarship recipient. The PR subcommittee is also continuing our partnership with the Alcohol and Drug Prevention Team, also known as ADAPT, and we hope to pursue programming with ADAPT next year in an in-person format. Outside of our subcommittee, Teen Council members also engage in volunteer activities around the city. We help promote the Teen Talent Showcase. We helped with Zoom with Santa as photographers and elves. We also partnered with teen organizations for the Leave No Trace Trail Cleanup and Parks Make Life Better Cleanup Days. Our goals are the following. 1, research teen recreation opportunities. Explore ways to support these opportunities and address new community needs. 2, research and execute partnerships with local organizations, businesses, and committees to promote teen wellness, mental health, and recreation, such as the Rock Band Showcase with a Brighter Day organization. 3, transition senior technology days to include a virtual platform and work to increase attendance by expanding promotional campaigns. 4, continue organizing workshops targeted at youth conferences such as She's All That, and look into expanding to additional youth groups such as the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and other organizations. 5, continue the Teen Council Ambassador Program and increase the involvement of the ambassadors at the Teen Council meetings and subcommittee meetings. Further develop the purpose and timeline of the program. 6, continue with the individual Outstanding Teen Citizenship Award and seek partnership with local organizations. 7, expand the video project by encouraging subcommittees to film videos highlighting the San Ramon community and work closely with the City of San Ramon for video ideas and distribution. 8, explore ways to build relationships with the school district, high schools, middle schools, and leadership classes. And 9, establish a stronger social media presence for Teen Council using Instagram or other social media platform pages. Lastly, I would like to recognize our seniors. Sophie Cooper will be attending the University of San Francisco. I will be attending Barnard College. Daniela Wise will be attending Cornell University. Risha Chakraborty will be attending Yale University. And Jose Sarmiento and Amina Sayed are still to be determined. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for, starting with Amrita? All right, don't everybody be shy. Jump up there right away. Oh, no wonder I've had attendees. Sridhar.
Thank you very much, Teen Council Chair Ramesh. You did a fantastic job leading Teen Council this year. As a dad of teen, I know how challenging it is for our high school students. It's especially this year being pretty rough year for all of you, but then you took the challenge and you meet all the expectations that the Teen Council was expecting with being in remote. It really needs a lot of dedication and commitment for the community to do such volunteer services. So thank you very much for all the great services. And also I wish all the best to incoming Teen Council Chair Janvi. Thanks once again.
Member Zafar, then Armstrong, and then Perkins.
Rita, thank you so much for a wonderful report and everything you guys do. You are the bench for our next city council, so hope to see some of you here in our seats in a few years. Best of luck to all of you that are now graduating high school and moving on to college. Continue the great work you've been doing here in San Ramon, and I'm sure you'll take these same leadership skills that you've learned here as part of the Teen Council back to your schools and universities. And I know we're starting to see a trend where some of the Teen Council members from the years past are coming back to San Ramon and applying to our committees and commissions. So we hope to see you back in town when you're ready to serve your community. But thank you so much for all the hard work you've put in. I know it's been a tough year for all of you. Nobody wanted their senior year to be all remote. So, it's just taught you an additional, if you will, skill set of dealing with chaos and change. But just want to say thank you. I've seen all of you liaison to different committee meetings, come and listen to some boring meetings for hours. And that's what sometimes, public service is all about. So anyway, thank you so much. Great presentation.
Okay, Member Armstrong, then Perkins. Tell us more about these boring meetings we have.
Well, Sabina said really everything. Rita, thanks so much for that report and for your service as a chair. And you've set a great example for Janavi for next year. I've enjoyed being a liaison to the Teen Council and hearing about the ambassador program and seeing how you've supported the seniors and the public outreach. It's overcome a lot of challenges this year and in the past year with the pandemic, but you've still, powered through it all. I love to see the passion and the excitement that you all bring to the meetings. It's frankly inspirational, I think, for all of us. So you do a lot of great things there with the Teen Council to make our community better. And I've really enjoyed how you maturely and confidently interact with city officials to get the work done that you do. So congrats to you. Congrats to all the seniors this year. And I wish you all a wonderful and fun summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Vice Mayor Perkins.
Amrita, thank you very much for a wonderful year. It's tough leading a group virtually, but you guys did, and you really got some things done. So I'm real proud of you and wish your successor as much luck and wish you a lot of success in Barnard College that you're going to. I really envy you and where you're headed. Good luck to you.
I'd like to echo the thank yous too, and also to Mary Lou Oliver, who was there back in '94 when we started the Teen Council, and she is still on the line, and I am about to, yep, there goes a hand right now. Let's open the public comment and see if they have anything to add to this. Let's see who we've got here. Okay, call-in user 1. Would you bring her in?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say that I'm very impressed with how the Teen Council president is able to report such a excellent presentation of what they do. I am a Republican woman. I would like to openly extend my invitation for 16 councils of our city to join me on June 9th, Wednesday, at the Mount Diablo Republican Club, which will take place at a country club. I will extend this privately, perhaps through council member. May I ask one of you guys to volunteer so I can, contact you to invite the teen councils to this event so that they may broaden their horizon to how, local politics take place with social events, as well as, giving them a chance to partake in a more conservative view. I know that there are going to be high school and college chapters of Turning Point USA people there as well. So I think it will be a good group to include our teen council members. So I am happy to extend my invitation to 6 teen council members. And if one of the council members, city council members, can let me know who to contact regarding this, it would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see that's the last person we have on public comment. I also like to note, unfortunately, he wasn't still on the council when the teen council started, but Jim Blickenstaff's still on the line. And I know Joyce Carr's there, and Greg was, I believe, there along with Mary Lou when they started the teen council. I swear it seems like just yesterday Matt Kummel was the chair, and it's probably 50 years old now. We're all getting up in age, I guess. In any case, public comment is closed. This is not an item that takes an action. So we will just move on from 10.1 and just say thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Teen Council, and keep up the good work. We are on to resolution number 2021-72, adopting the City of San Ramon's Residential Traffic Calming Program Handbook and Toolkit Update. Lisa Bobadilla, you're going to introduce the approval of a resolution for us, correct?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mayor Hudson. And that's a tough act to follow. my hat's off to the teen council. They
How do you think we feel? We feel they look better every time they come in here.
Oh gosh, I'm just so impressed. And by the way, we do have a former member of the teen council on our Transportation Advisory Committee, Miranda Shake. So just a shout out to Miranda. She's doing a fantastic job. So she's come back to the community that she grew up in. So that's fantastic. Okay, well, good evening, Mayor Hudson, members of the City Council, City Manager, staff, and San Ramon community. This evening, we are here to present to you the draft final Residential Traffic Calming Handbook and Toolkit. We began this endeavor last September with the Transportation Advisory Committee recommending forming a subcommittee responsible to work with staff to update the RTC program, handbook, and toolkit. Subcommittee members included Billy Hurley, Al Pacheco, and Joy Bhattacharya. Subcommittee meetings were determined and held bi-weekly from September through December of 2020, and then monthly starting in January of 2021. We want to take this opportunity now to thank the subcommittee members. So our goal this evening is to provide you with a summary of what has transpired to date, and ultimately we are requesting that the City Council consider adopting resolution number 2021-072. So residential traffic calming is not unique to San Ramon. Many cities across the country implement some form of a residential traffic calming program. Here in the Bay Area, it's very common for many cities. There are differences in how the programs are implemented and funded, but the ultimate goal is to address local residential traffic calming. Here in San Ramon, it's a very collaborative team approach with staff from transportation, traffic engineering, and the Police Department Traffic Patrol Division. Ultimately, all RTC requests that come into the city via email, CRM, phone calls, or through one of you, a city council member, or the city manager, or the mayor, all requests are logged, they are tracked, work is initiated, and ultimately items are presented to the Transportation Advisory Committee for input and feedback and next steps. This past April, actually last month, we presented the draft toolkit to the Policy Committee. I'd like to thank Councilmember Veros and Councilmember Armstrong who provided valuable feedback and input. I will highlight the items that were raised from the Policy Committee later on in the presentation. So with that, thank you, Christina. She has the presentation ready. for me this evening. So the San Ramon Residential Traffic Calming Program has been in place since 1990, with the first RTC handbook and toolkit adopted in 2006. There are two parts to the document. The handbook focuses on policies and procedures, while the toolkit provides tools that can be used to address various types of traffic calming issues. The Residential Traffic Calming Program is a core component of the Transportation Advisory Committee, or TAC. The policies, procedures, and tools embedded in the program provide a framework for staff and TAC to address concerns raised by residents, primarily speeding on local roadways and volume of vehicles on residential streets. What do we commonly hear? There are too many people driving too fast on my street. I'm sure all of the council members have heard that at least one time or another. So the program focuses on local transportation issues such as cut-through traffic and speeding on residential streets. The program outlines a variety of traffic calming measures to implement on local residential streets, and it provides an opportunity for local residents to work very closely with TAC and staff to identify traffic issues and concerns and to determine appropriate solutions. As I mentioned earlier, it's a very collaborative team approach to residential traffic calming. The program is housed within the Public Works Department. It's led by our department director, Maria Ferner. And then we have a number of staff members who play a vital and active role in the program. Brian Bornstein, our city engineer, Deborah Fear, our senior traffic engineer, Raul Bouquet, our associate traffic engineer, and PJ Doot, our transportation specialist. In fact, all of the RTC requests that come in to the city, there's one point of contact for residential traffic calming, and all of those go through PJ. And then she collaborates with the staff to move the items forward and then ultimately present to the Transportation Advisory Committee. So just want to thank Deborah, Raul, and PJ. They worked very hard to put together the toolkit component of the handbook. And then we couldn't do this without our Transportation Advisory Committee members. As I mentioned earlier, we had a subcommittee that started working on this last September. It was Billy Hurley, Joy Bhattacharya, and Al Pacheco. But then we also have the rest of our committee members: Atu Patel, Nolan Chen, Bob DuPont, our newest member, Miranda Shakes, and then Min Tao. So typically when a request comes into the city, the request is shared and discussed among city staff within transportation, traffic engineering, public service, and traffic enforcement. It then goes to the Transportation Advisory Committee. We then reach out to citizens in the neighborhood, sometimes homeowner associations, and then ultimately, if items require additional funding, we bring an item before the City Council. The mission statement of the program is very simple. The Residential Traffic Calming Program focuses on local transportation issues. It is designed to coordinate and collaborate between city staff, Transportation Advisory Committee, and citizens in an effort to produce effective traffic calming throughout San Ramon's neighborhoods. The goal is to establish procedures to facilitate the installation of traffic calming measures that will enhance the quality of life in cities' neighborhoods by mitigating the negative impacts of vehicle traffic on residential streets. There are 6 objectives to the program. The first objective is to promote safe and pleasant conditions for people who live, walk, bike, and drive on local residential neighborhood streets. Reduce speed of traffic on local neighborhood streets, reduce the number of cut-through traffic on local neighborhood streets, preserve and enhance walking and biking access to neighborhood destinations, facilitate resident involvement in residential traffic management activities, and finally, provide a process to prioritize residential traffic calming requests. There are 4 E's. The 4 E's include education, engineering, enforcement, and emergency response services. Education. City staff can assist residents to make informed decisions about neighborhoods by educating residents by means of brochures, city website, and social media. Informed residents can then better assess the degree of traffic calming required for a street. This is a sample letter that we send out to an HOA or to a local neighborhood informing them of a traffic calming issue. Engineering. The engineering aspect focuses on traffic studies, data analysis, and implementation of physical changes to the street with the objective of reducing vehicle speeds or volumes on a single street or network. This is a sample of a warrant study that we would do for the installation of flashing yellow beacons, for example. Enforcement. Enforcement plays a vital role in our residential traffic calming program. The San Ramon Police Department enforces traffic control measures, and they target identified areas, or what we call among staff, selective enforcement. Enforcement does significantly increase awareness of traffic-related problems such as speeding. And then new to the program in the toolkit or in the handbook is emergency response services. This is the fourth E that we've added to the program. Emergency response services refers to the collaborative effort between the Public Works Department, the Police Department, and the San Ramon Valley Fire Protection District to develop policies that accommodate the safety, access, and response times of various emergency vehicles, as well as ensuring community-wide goals are maintained. So I'll briefly touch on the changes to the handbook and then changes to the toolkit. To the handbook, we clarified and updated the RTC Phase 1 process. We clarified and updated the RTC Phase 2 process, and we changed language in the policy document to reflect today's conditions. A summary of changes to the toolkit include: we changed the format of how the tools are laid out in the toolkit. We added new tools. We included diagrams and photos of those tools. We added a new sample residential traffic calming petition, and we added a section called definition and acronym page, which describes what residential traffic calming tools are. This is a photo of the prior residential traffic calming handbook and toolkit. And this is the cover of the new handbook and toolkit. And this is also included in your staff report this evening. So phase 1 of the program, and quite frankly, about 95% of the requests that come in go through phase 1 of the program. It's a very few number of requests that come in that move on to phase 2. So we spend a lot of time on phase 1 of the program. Phase 1 involves the collaborative effort of city staff and residents to identify specific concerns, establish a timeline for review. We develop achievable goals, and we initiate the data gathering process. Examples of phase 1 measures include communication to the community, either through the local residents or through the HOA, information, selective enforcement request, the deployment of the radar trailer or the portable radar speed display sign, and in some cases, signage or striping on a specific street. Phase 2 is only considered after phase 1 measures were not sufficient to resolve the issue on the local residential street. Typically, phase 2 measures cost more money, and they are permanent solutions, such as the installation of speed humps. Certain phase 2 measures require city council approval. Examples of phase 2 measures include raised crosswalks, roundabouts, speed humps, and traffic circles. There are about 24 tools that are included in the toolkit portion of the document. The tools include anything on the next 3 slides, it's anything from chicanes to a lateral shift. And all of these items are described in detail in the toolkit. We go into the cost, the appropriate application, provide a photo of these items so that the resident fully understands what's included with phase 2. This is again is a sampling of items that are included in the toolkit as part of phase 2. And then these are the last of the items that are included as part of phase 2 in the toolkit. So the next steps upon your approval this evening is that we will print the new handbook and toolkit and brochures. We will expand the outreach to the community to inform the public of the RTC handbook and toolkit, including posting information on all of our social media sites and at city facilities. Based on feedback from the policy committee, from Councilmember Veros and Councilmember Armstrong, we developed a frequently asked questions. We're going to insert that into the residential traffic calming brochure. The FAQ will help address common issues and questions that are raised by community members. And then we will circulate the updated RTC program brochure to homeowners associations and neighborhoods to ensure that the public understands the RTC program components and the process. So with that, we are seeking council approval this evening to adopt a resolution number 2021-072, approving the final residential traffic calming handbook and toolkit. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Any comments or questions before I open up public comment? I don't see any hands from Armstrong, Perkins, Sabina, Sridhar. Seeing none, let's open the public comment. If you wish to speak under public comment on this item, please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone. When it's your turn to talk, we'll call upon you by name if provided. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes. I'm dragging this out to see if anybody wants to speak to it. Anyone wish to speak to our little resolution numbers? Going once, twice, public comments closed. Okay, the matters before the council. Any comments before a motion, Mr. Perkins? Member Perkins.
I want to thank Lisa and the whole committee. I remember, Lisa, you and we spent a few hours on the 2006 version. I remember I gave you a big pile of comments that most of which got incorporated, and it really helps focus the citizen when they make a complaint. You're right, 95% get taken through phase 1 and only a few percent make it onto phase 2. And that's evidenced by the number of speed humps we have around town. But thank you very much for the work you have put in on updating it, and thank the the Transportation Advisory Committee for the work they've done. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you. Member Zafar, then Armstrong, and then Veros.
So I first learned about the program from Lisa when I joined the TAC. She asked me, she's like, do you know about the traffic calming program? I'm like, no, what is that? But when she explained it to me, I'm like, oh, all the things we take for granted are, so it's kind of one of those things which I think we just all take for granted. It's all around us. It happens. It really keeps our city safe. And thank you so much for doing that. I really like the cover of the new one. I think it's much cooler and modern looking. So thank you, Lisa, for everything you and your team do. I had an opportunity to learn a lot about this sitting on TAC, so appreciate that.
Well, thank you for your time on TAC also, by the way.
Member Armstrong, then Veros.
Thanks, Lisa, for that update, and it's good to see all that information again. I think I learned something new this time as well, and I think the 4 E's are a good way to capture all the elements of the program there. As we talked about before, I think education is one of the key things, and so I applaud the effort to get this in front of the public. I think we've all seen or heard from others about people speeding, and so whatever we can do to get information out that this handbook exists, I think will help them to get that process started, to at least investigate things that might be able to be done in their neighborhood, to those different tools and the process. So thanks again for your report this evening, and well done.
Thank you. Sridhar.
Thank you, Lisa, and to your team, as well as TAC for putting together all this toolkit. And also thank you very much for adding that FAQ. I'm sure like pretty much all council members and mayor keep receiving questions about having a speed bump or pedestrian zing and all those. So this information hopefully helps residents to understand what it takes and how much it costs for getting those things in place. So thanks a lot for all your great work.
Thank you, Sridhar, and thank you, Lisa. I was just wondering, because Mary Lou Oliver is still on here. Scott, were you ever here when John Dillon was here? Wow, there would have been, I mean, I just had this image when you were talking of the 4-inch thick staff report, and Scott being the one that actually read it. All the little arrows and everything. You engineers just love that stuff. Anyway, we're looking for an adoption of resolution number 21-72. Scott Perkins is first.
I second.
Second, Sridhar. Did you get that, City Clerk? Where'd you go? You're not in my images here. Any further discussion? Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote.
Councilmember Armstrong,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrows,
Yes.
Councilmember Safar,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Yes.
and Mayor Hudson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to 10.3. This is a public hearing resolution number 21-73, and I understand that the city clerk has a recommendation for a continuance of this item. Is that correct?
Yes, good evening. Staff is recommending continuance of this item as the noticing may be considered to have been deficient under the Brown Act. At this time, I would ask the council to entertain a motion to continue this item to the June 8th City Council meeting without opening the public hearing this evening. This will give staff time to ensure that the public hearing is properly noticed.
Oh, I forgot the last one. I heard Perkins, you went off screen on me. Did you make the motion?
Yeah, so moved.
Second his motion.
Okay, motion Perkins, second Zafar. Any further discussion? Nobody's jumping forward. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Armstrong,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrows,
Yes.
Councilmember Zafar,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Yes.
and Mayor Hudson.
Yes.
Thank you. 5-0.
5-0. Got a resolution number 2021-074, and I understand you have the same recommendation for that one. Would you read that?
I do. Staff is recommending we continue this item as the noticing may be considered to have been deficient under the Brown Act. I would ask the council to entertain a motion to continue this item to the June 8th City Council meeting without opening the public hearing, and it'll give staff to ensure that the public hearing is properly noticed.
So moved.
And seconded.
Oh, that Burrows got in there ahead of you, Sabina. Okay, we've got a motion Perkins, second Burrows. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Armstrong,
Yes.
Councilmember Burrows,
Yes.
Councilmember Zafar,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
Yes.
and Mayor Hudson.
Yes, that's a 5-0. We'll move on to 10.5 Croquet Gardens Mud Structure Recommendation Update. I don't think we are continuing this one. So do we have a staff report from Kathy Hyman?
Yes, we do. So good evening and City Council. I am here this evening to talk about my very favorite park in our system of parks, which is Crow Canyon Gardens, and specifically the Muds Restaurant Building. So as you know, this topic has been discussed by both the Parks Commission and the City Council since the end of the redevelopment agency in 2012. And so I have a very brief presentation. I think you're pretty much up to speed on most of it, but let me just go back through the material facts. Thank you so much, Christina. So let's go to the first slide, please. So this just gives you a little background and context, and for anybody else who's watching the presentation, this kind of shows you that overhead shot of Crow Canyon Gardens, the area, and then also the parcel that is or was the Muds Restaurant Building. They are all now both zoned parks, so it is all one park area. It also has a lovely picture of the barrel vault ceilings, just to kind of give you a quick reminder of that. Next slide. This slide again is a kind of a overshot of the blueprint. So this I think is helpful to kind of remind you how the building is broken up. So there is the kitchen area that is in pretty significantly bad shape, the open garden office bathroom area that is where there was that little atrium, and then really the focus of the presentation this evening and the discussion being these main rooms that you see in blue. And those are the areas that do feature that barrel vaulted ceiling in different arrangements, but all of that area is where that is located. Next slide. So to get a little background on this, on February 24th, the policy committee was directed by the city council to reconsider kind of the council's acceptance of the recommendation to demolish the MUDS building. So as you recall, the council originally agreed that they thought we should demolish, then you reconsidered that and sent this off to the policy committee to look at. So at that point, the policy committee re-looked at the original 4 scenarios that were considered by the Parks Commission, and that was to have a full structure renovation in partnership with the Nature Park Foundation at the time that fixed the entire building and the park. The new 1,500 square foot building, which would have gotten rid of the building and then added a new building and structure, as well as the park. A shade pavilion version, which would have the well-appointed shade pavilion and fixing the park, but no building. And then of course that last scenario, which was just remove the entire building and return the park to its natural setting. At that point, staff was asked to provide cost estimate for some of the other alternatives that you would discuss, and also to research a national or state monument status to see if that might be something that would be appropriate for this particular park. Next slide, please. So first of all, staff did some digging into historic site designation and specifically the National Historic Registration process. And what we really found out in our look was that MUDS might qualify as a state historical point of interest. A state historical point of interest has a slightly lower bar than the National Register. It might still be possible to get some of those other higher designations, but in our look at this, this is the one that really applied the most. It would require first, last, only, or most significant of its type within the region, associated with an individual or group having a profound influence on the history of the area, a prototype or outstanding example of period style, architecture, movement, or construction. And really, if you apply as a California point of interest, the state gives you a small sign and then you can add an additional monument. The challenge with the National Historic Registration process is that it does require you to not just be in your county, but to be regional. And Chez Panisse was established about 10 years before MUDS, and probably is the more premier farm to table example. So in that way, we would probably fit better as a California point of interest. Next slide. So going down to the details here. So staff reached out to Wood, Rogers, and Leonikis, the consultants who had completed some of the previous analysis on the building, and asked them to assist us in coming up with a scope and a cost for them to find out what it would cost if we did each of these different ideas. So in their scope, what they came up with was a jewel as a concept. So there's a jewel scenario, and that entails saving one small room in the structure and making it be kind of a little jewel box in the park where people could walk around the outside, look through the windows and see the barrel vaulted ceiling, and that it could be used for very small events and meetings. More of a kind of a specialty space and not designed for big events, but really more for the interpretation around the outside. They had the event scenario, which saved all of that area that I showed you that was in blue, would save multiple rooms in that section. Again, so you could look around the outside and see the barrel vault and see the historic nature of that, but that it would save more rooms so that you could have larger events or programs. And then finally, the celebration, which was to construct a pavilion with using the ceiling as an interpretive point, not reusing it, but to kind of give an homage to it, having interpretive signage and making it a place that would be historic and memorable for the Muds restaurant, but not a recreation of it. So the cost proposal from Wood, Rogers, and Leonicus to give us the cost of all three of these options so that we could bring that back to you would be approximately $59,000. Now, excuse me, that scope of work could be reevaluated to reduce costs. So if you were to say you only wanted to do one of these, then of course, by nature, that would bring the cost down for that. Next slide. So the policy committee discussed all of the options, but did not reach consensus. Councilmember Veros favored the proposed jewel scenario. Councilmember Armstrong favored the proposed celebration scenario. There was general agreement that the event scenario was not of interest, and that really spending the additional funds for a consultant in order to establish costs for any of the proposed concepts was not necessarily warranted in this case. And that they asked that staff would bring this item back to the full commission, to the full city council for consideration. Next slide, please. So to go into a little fiscal analysis on what we're spending so far. So to date, the city has spent approximately $25,000 on visual assessments and an additional $4,000 on community outreach. That was via the Parks Master Plan. The cost proposal for the additional design scenarios would be approximately $59,000. And if we want to proceed in this direction, the funding appropriations would be required from alternative funding sources such as Park Development Fund to complete any of the additional work on this project. Next slide. So if the city council directs staff to move forward with this analysis or a portion of this analysis, then staff would secure funding, enter into sole source contract with the consultant, and the consultant's estimates for the work could be completed in approximately 2 months. And then staff would present the results back to the city council for further direction. Or if you are not interested in pursuing this direction and you have different direction, that's fine too. Next slide. And so also here this evening are Rod Wu, who can answer questions specific to the plans provided by Wood Rogers. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, Rod, do you have anything to add to this? Before I put this for the council, if there, well, let's bring it before the council if there's any comments or questions before I open up public hearing. Does anybody want to jump in there? Should we just get the public hearing going and figure out, Sabina, you're in
I was
and
going
out.
to say, let's start with the public hearing and then we can.
Makes sense to me. Public comment is now open. If you wish to speak under public comment on this item, please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom or dial *9 on your telephone. When it's your turn to talk, we will call you by name. If provided, remarks are limited to 3 minutes per person. We have 2 already, and a clock will be running on Zoom screen. The speaker's microphone will be muted once the allotted time has expired. Let's start with caller in user 1 and then Jim Blickenstaff. You're still muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, sorry, it always takes a while to unmute myself. I apologize for the delay. I want to commend the staff for all the excellent work that they have put in on this project. As I was listening to her, one of the past city council meetings flashed in front of my eyes. And to me, that was one of the most humiliating meetings collectively as a citizen of San Ramon, because the very publicity or marketing consultant company we have hired actually tried to advertise our city as nothing. We are a city of nothing. And I want to vindicate our city. I want this project to be able to be used not only by our community, our school district, to study the ancestors that have come before us and have established this wonderful place now that we live in. I also want people to be able to come and enjoy it and stay in the hotel that we're building right now and will soon to complete. And I want this project to vindicate us as the city of nothing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Blickenstaff.
Hello, Dave and council. This is Blickenstaff. Yeah, basically, I think there are two decent choices here after looking at it more closely, the Jewel and the event. And those are down the road choices, by the way. I think the key factor that's often been overlooked is the fact that at a very modest cost, very elemental cost, a cost much cheaper than demolition, you can preserve the building. You can protect it from weather. You can shore up parts of it, the facade that may need a little touch up, and you can protect the building as is, more or less, and then go from there. It sets the stage for other options as a very modest cost, and then it's wide open to how you follow up with this, which is a very important, iconic piece of San Ramon history. It could end up being a simple landmark, a structure that represents a plan before its time that ended up giving us a beautiful 9-acre park. It could be more inclusive of more expensive interior work if the community wanted that, but I don't see that as essential. I see it more as a landmark that demonstrates far-reaching thinking that actually had a great benefit for the city. And that would be a more modest cost. And either the Jewel can be done at rather inexpensively compared to the event one, but either one of those long-term would be great. But the first step is to preserve the building. And that's something you're kind of doing already in a very modest degree. And that can be expanded a little bit to make sure we keep the essence of the structure intact and structurally sound to proceed with the other options down the road. You don't have to decide all of them tonight. You just have to first take care of the building at the modest cost and then go from there. And I think down the road, the citizens will be very grateful as time goes on to have this landmark, if you want to call it that, iconic structure, as unique to San Ramon, special to San Ramon. Other cities had this kind of effort with the farsightedness that integrated with nature the way MUDS did. And so I like to keep that enhanced with a structure that identifies with that rather than a plaque or photographs or something that sort of demeans the historic importance of that site. Similar to me, long range down the road, when you look back in history to the Boone House or the Forest Home Farms area, they're all integral to a situation that ended up making San Ramon what it is today. And definitely MUD's restaurant is a part of that. But I say either the event or the Jewel will solve those issues. So that's my thought on that.
Thank you. Former Councilmember Blickenstaff and another former Councilmember, Mary Lou Oliver.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor and Council. I can't really add much to what Jim said. I just agree with every word, which ought to surprise some of you considerably. The one thing that I think you already know about me is that I had a very early involvement with this piece of property, and sitting down at Pat Boom's table and talking with Virginia Mudd about her really exciting ideas about a state-of-the-art architectural design. And it was beautiful, and it could be beautiful again. What I would like to emphasize that Jim said is this doesn't have to be done all at once. This could be done piece by piece. I know that the park staff were somewhat overwhelmed by a massive project with long-term effects that seemed to be done want to be done very quickly. And I don't think it should be looked like that at all. And I agree with Jim that let's keep our options open. A plaque or a monument would be almost an insult to the project. I think that would, if the project was gone, there's nothing really for the monument to represent, because it in itself was what was most interesting. So with that thought, I leave you to ponder. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no one, there we go, Luz Gomez.
Good evening again. I have to say I was so pleased to see this item on the agenda, and I really want to thank Kathy and staff for bringing it back and putting this much thought into it so far. Thank you, thank you. As someone who grew up literally kind of behind the creek from where Mudd's property is, this is a really important piece of history, land, and something that San Ramon can be proud of. I encourage us to be visionary, to think about how lovely it will be for future San Ramonians to find that this gives them a sense of place, a sense of history and connection to nature that is really unique. I mean, it's unlike anything else in San Ramon. So I think it's absolutely worth preserving. I agree with both Mary Lou and Jim that let's stop the deterioration, like right now, please. And then if we could preserve as much of the building as possible for, again, like my vision would be, let's bring the summer nature day camp back and have a place for the kids to actually hang out and learn about nature and ecology, and have activities for the community. This is an opportunity. Let's not let it go wasted, and let's seize the moment and make something beautiful and amazing out of this. Without destroying it, without having just a plaque. Please, please, I beg. This is a jewel, and San Ramon deserves this. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Luz. Kind of neat how you worked in that one jewel out of the 3 jewel event, and what was the other one? But anyway, we have Joyce Carr tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm not going to take any time at all to discuss this because I know it's been a long evening. But just to tell you that I totally agree with Jim, Mary Lou, and Luz that it's a gem, and I love history, and I know a lot of people love history, and it is something we need to definitely work on and keep as a keepsake for this city. So that's all I'm going to say. I agree with the others.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers for tonight? Seeing none, we will close the public comment. I could, if I could beg the indulgence of my fellow council members, looking at the hour, why don't we take 5 minutes, come back about 9:02 or whatever it is, and open this for discussion amongst us. Does that sound good? See you in 5.
Yes, we wait for the mayor.
No, the mayor's been here.
Turn on, like, we were just waiting for you to turn on your video so we could all turn on ours.
It won't go on. It says you cannot start your video because now we can. No, I can't. Yeah, I can. Okay, what do we got? Attendees, panelist. Where do I have Christina? There she is. Are we back?
We are back.
Okay, let's get back to business here. We have had the public comment, had and closed. This is a discussion now between the council members. I've been debating how to start this off. We had two recommendations on our policy committee. Sridhar, you've got your mute off. Do you want to start it off and then I'll go to Mark and then Scott? I know you got yours off, Scott, but we should probably hear from policy first. Go ahead, Sridhar.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mayor Hudson. So this came to our policy committee as I had an opportunity to study on this as a Parks Commissioner for almost a couple of years while I was on commission. And then now as a City Council member, as a policy committee member, fortunately, I had to once again read this and work on this one. So the recommendation that I gave the jewel on my thought process was that I looked at all these three scenarios. So the jewel save one special room for special purpose event use. The event saves several rooms for special purpose events. And then the celebration, right? Demolition and replace with functional pavilion, monument for enjoyment of all. So let me touch base with all these three and why I thought that the jewel is the right thing to pick up. So the first one, the celebration demolish and replace with the functional pavilion monument for enjoyment of all. You know, I feel like, or I think that this is a unique opportunity for residents of San Ramon to able to witness the aesthetic and cultural history about our locally grown organic food as well as farm to table. So this revolution that brought within the San Ramon definitely going to be cherished like our future generations, ourselves as well as our future generations. So if we destroy this piece, I think once we destroy, it is lost forever. I think it is this will add a sense for community that hey, we have some heritage if we preserve this one, right? So if we lose it, then there is it will be gone forever once we destroy it. So that's why I striked out the celebration point from my thought process. The second thing, the event, several rooms for special purpose events, that sounds pretty good. But then I feel like this is pretty overblown. And as a council members, we need to be fiduciary. So I think physically, neither it is feasible nor reasonable for us to spend that kind of money. And and also we are not at a stage where we need to have centers where event centers or something like that, as we have multiple event centers already within the city. So that's why I thought like that may be not the right combination or right scenario for our in this case. So then the next one is the jewel. I think this is a good combination of both preserving our heritage as well as being fiduciary, being fiscally responsible, so that we can preserve it and make sure that we enjoy it, as well as I'm sure like San Ramon, as it's changing in future, like there'll be a lot of business tourists as well as regular tourism will be increasing within San Ramon. So my vision is that in future there will be a place, a site that we can tell within San Ramon that hey, we are unique in a perspective where we created a revolution of organic growing vegetables and bringing that onto the farm table. And so that's why I think it is the best interest of our community and for the future to preserve this and to be financially responsibly as well as make it feasible. That's the reason I thought we should go with the jewel option. And coming to the consulting services, to pick either one of these, both Councilmember Armstrong and myself, we both agreed on that we don't want any consulting services on this one. And my perspective is because I spent many years, many of us spent many years, right, on this talking and all that. I don't think we need really a consultant to come and tell us at this point that which one we should pick. So that's why we said we denied on the hiring any consulting services for letting us know which service we want to go. And the last one is about pursuing for state historical point of interest. Definitely, we want to get that going on. Thanks, Kathy, for once again presenting that, adding that as a part of this presentation. I appreciate that. So these are my thought processes that which I thought the Joel is the right thing to go with.
I need to ask you the question just for clarification before we go to Mark. Yeah. I see save limited space. All I have is this thing, the paper that has blue and I guess I can't call that pink and yellow. Is your one room the entire main room blue, or would the event be, which says several rooms, be the entire main room blue? In other words, trying to get people a clear idea when we say this, what is the jewel blue on page 337 of your packet?
No, that just shows you the layout. So they didn't define one specific area in the blue, but that the jewel would be one section of the building. So you can see several rectangles when you look at that. So one section of that would be the jewel. I think the event was probably more than one section. So
more like the whole blue.
Yeah, but not necessarily, but bigger.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, Mark, but I think people needed clarification on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I saw the Jewel event as or the Jewel room as being something that's representative of that architecture and style and things like that when we were having the analysis, but a room to be determined as we did the analysis. But I think Kathy gave a good background on the whole thing. We've all heard the background and we've seen the staff reports, and it's gone from council to commission and committees and policy, and here we are back at council again. This is my 5th meeting on it alone just this year, and so it's obviously an important decision, and it's a decision we got to make. But I still contend that though I respect the input of our public speakers tonight and their perspectives, I still think we go with what was effectively the original Parks and Community Services recommendation. You know, we have a Parks and Community Services Commission to take a deep dive into these issues and make recommendations. And we don't have to accept those recommendations, but we did accept their recommendation back in January. So, you know, so again, after a split decision to reconsider, you know, just the fate of that building, you know, we discussed in policy, and then here we are back at council. And I still don't think we're any closer now to realizing the desires of the community as was determined in a survey that took place. You know, that people want, our residents wanted Crow Canyon Gardens. They wanted a quiet, serene, peaceful park. They wanted something with an emphasis on nature. You know, that whole, the community gardens, the demonstration gardens, just, you know, that unique park that we've all been talking about. And I frankly think we can fix all that tonight. I think that we can get the whole parks master plan back on track. We can make Crow Canyon Gardens a place that we all think it ought to be. We made that decision back in January, and I think we should affirm it tonight, frankly. I think we need to renovate Crow Canyon Gardens. I think, you know, let's proceed with the original recommendation, which in effect is to me, the celebration option that is in the packet tonight. And, but I do think we ought to acknowledge the role that MUD's had in the area. I think it can be done professionally and properly and done right if we install a marker of some type. Some smart people can figure out just what that looks like. Something that tells a story. So as people go through the park, They are, they're strolling through it. They're going through the demonstration gardens. They can reflect on the history of the area. But I don't think that requires having a building present to be able to do all that, even if we designate it as a California historical point of interest. So I honestly don't think we need to spend any more time on this. We have already seen as council members, we see the city periodic updates where we see vandalism taking place in there. They're breaking windows, they're busting down doors, they're getting inside, they're disrupting the security system. We have the information in order to make a decision. We know what the long-term costs are for this, at least the estimates. We all have our perspectives. And we're not really hearing a lot of new information tonight than what we've heard in the past. So I think it's time to be decisive. I think it's time to move on and make a decision. And so I would go with the celebration option, which is, to me, again, in effect, the original Parks and Community Services recommendation. And that's about all I've got to say on it.
Well, that's what needs to come out. Member Perkins. And then Zafar.
Yes, I want to reflect on the fact that the Parks and Community Services Commission spent, excuse me, a couple of years on this. They had a special committee. They did some surveys, and the results of the survey said they wanted, serene, natural park, and that it should have, it shouldn't encourage events to happen there that are that could easily be done elsewhere. This is not going to be an event center. So the Parks and Community Services recommended, they had their 3 points in their thing, and we voted on that in January, and that's what we voted on in January. Now, it did come back and go through reconsideration, but that was the original vote. So the council and the Parks Commission agreed on those 3 policies or elements of what should happen at Crow Canyon Gardens. Retaining a small piece of the building, I'm not sure really does any justice, and we're certainly not going to retain the whole building. And so I think we need to proceed with the celebration. Is that what we call it? Yeah, celebration version. Create a pavilion that will serve, so it has either 1 or 2 sides that kind of block some of the weather maybe, but it's an open air instructional space that can be used during the summer for a lot of our Crow Canyon Gardens and the kids that have summer camp there, and during the winter, it can be used for all kinds of natural demonstrations related to the garden there. And I think we need to be a little careful with the point of interest as to sometimes those come with some strings attached that may limit us. And so we need to make the decision as to what we want first. And then if what we want first fits in a point of interest, a state point of interest or something, that's fine, but don't go do the point of interest first and then find it's tied our hands in a way that we really can't proceed with what we have agreed upon. Thank you.
Sabina.
Yeah, first, I just want to thank the Parks Commission, Council Member Mark and Sridhar for spending so much time on this, and the staff. Clearly, we're all extremely passionate about these gardens. Not as much as Kathy, I'm sure, but this is clearly that it's taking so much discussion and for everybody to come together and recommend what we want to do. I think just speaks to how passionate we are about these gardens. So I think that's a given. The other thing I would agree with Council Member Armstrong is that let's make a decision tonight, hopefully. We've spent a lot of time looking at this. It's gone back to, again, the policy committee as well. And I think it's time we make a decision tonight. I'm seeing a pattern here.
And I am heavily leaning towards the jewel concept that Councilmember Veros has recommended, and he mentioned the word heritage. And for me, it's like building a heritage walk in San Ramon. If you look at the barn, if you look at the glass house, hopefully one day the Harlan House, and we have the Muds building, part of it preserved. We could really have a heritage walk where people can walk around or kind of drive around and look at some of these, buildings of historical interest. So I think it's preserving a part of that building. I wouldn't agree with the event space because I think it does take away from from some of the serenity of the park to have big events there. So to balance between what the Parks Commission had recommended in keeping with kind of the serenity and the true nature of what Crow Canyon Gardens is, and preserving a part of that history, and putting it on California's point of historical interest map, if you will, seems like a great idea, right? It gives character, it builds community, it gives us a sense of identity that, this is where San Ramon's come from. So I would, agree with the jewel recommendation, and have, rest of the council say, let's consider that as a good option that can work, and we can move forward. I know Kathy's been spending the last few weekends with a lot of volunteers, pulling out weeds and cleaning up the garden. So I think we're ready to move forward with this, in my opinion.
Let me try and be clear first. As far as Crow Canyon goes, Kathy, as far as I'm concerned, full speed ahead on the garden. Bifurcate, keep the building out of it, because you're still going to have to bid whatever you have to do on what the building is. It's separate. The celebration to pull that thing down, then put that thing, and it may come to that in the end if we start tearing up and find out the whole thing's mold and mildew. I don't know. But there is this overriding statement that somehow we have to hold events there. I never looked at this as anything different than the events that we would hold at Forest Home Farms without doing the little lambs and all that other. I mean, just the building itself, or what we've done at the Glass House. I mean, it's a historical building. The best idea I've heard through all of this is what Sabina said: open the door and let people in to see what we have. That's all. Clean it up a little bit, let some people in there, and they'll tell you what that, in this case, I guess if it were a jewel, to me, that's all one room. I mean, it's the architecture you're trying to save and what we have there. I mean, I would shut off the kitchen and the other office stuff until you figured out how much it probably fall down by the time you figured that out. But the point is, if you tear this down, it's gone. And you're hearing from a lot of people that this is something because they've been in it. I don't think anybody's been in this from the public in 12 years. So my recommendation, if it has to be the jewel to keep it from being torn down, is do the jewel. But somehow, some way, clean this darn thing up for a year so that people can get in there. They may think we're crazy and say, what are these guys trying to save? They're right, do the celebration. But don't tear it down or try and figure out. It's going to take a year of discussing what the jewel is. To me, that was all one room for now. Let people get in there and see what they're paying for. It's their tax dollars, and see if it's worth saving a little bit more than we thought. But if you tear it down, it's gone. That's it. So to me, if it has to be to save the building for now and get it open so people can go in, I say do the jewel. But boy, if we just did a jewel and don't open it up until we cut back to half of it or a third of it, then we've really not done our due diligence or done our responsibility as far as I'm concerned. Oh, and save the bathroom. I mean, those things are the hardest things to keep. But that would be my direction on it, because you do have enough people that are willing to try and save this thing. Any other thoughts? Sabina, you started to say something. I can read.
Yeah, I was just going to say, should we make a motion and vote on it, or?
Yeah, if you want to do it.
So I would like to make a motion that we go with the jewel scenario,
to save limited space within the building. This includes one room that could be used for small events and focus on the unique barrel ceiling, as well as preserved room with windows and interpretive displays. The remainder of the building would be demolished and the exterior renovated as needed, is what I'm reading, the Jewel is. And in addition, we also look at the California Point of Historical Interest site, making it a California Point of Interest site. Would that encompass everything, Kathy, you're looking for, or?
Yes, I mean, I think that would give us.
Or would that be two motions?
Yeah,
Two separate ones?
with.
Sorry?
Yes, that would give us some good, good information to move forward with.
So I move the motion, like the first one is about keeping the Jewel option, right? So that's motion one. And you want to do the motion second, like later on, or within this?
Right now we have one motion on the table. It just happens to have two components. You can split that out into two separate motions if you prefer to vote on them separately.
It's before you, Sridhar. Do you want to say your Jewel, the one that you recommended, and I'm paraphrasing for you, Sabina, and tear down the rest, or give the okay to proceed? That would be tear down the rest after you come up with the whatever that eventual room thing would be.
Yeah. So if it's going to be two motions, then do we first go with the Jewel, vote on that, and then we can do a motion for the California Point of Historical Interest if we need to. I think it can be packaged into one. But Scott or Mark, do you want this to be packaged into one or separately?
Mark, you've got your hand up. But wait a minute, before we do, do I have a second for the package of one?
Yes.
Do I hear a second? Okay, Sridhar, second. Now, Mark, go ahead, your discussion.
I just want to make sure we're all understanding that, this is going to obviously take away funding from some other projects in order to do this. But I guess the question we really haven't talked about tonight that was put before us at policy and then also was discussed in the staff report that maybe needs to be included in the motion is whether or not we continue to do the $59,000 or some amount of analysis, to get a detailed funding cost of what we're really talking about.
Well, I didn't hear anything past two or three people saying no to the consultant. It started off with no to the consultant. Your motion, in my opinion, didn't include proceeding with 59,000. Sabina, am I reading it wrong?
No, it did not. And looks like both council members agreed that we should not proceed with a consultant. So I would agree with them on that.
So we are going with only one option. We are not going to we don't review or go through all this again with these three options. There will be only one option for the staff, that is the Jewel option. So
they're going to have to take that back. It's my understanding, Kathy, that you guys are going to start figuring out what that Jewel option is, but it allows you, the single most important thing isn't, to me, tearing down the building. It's getting to work on that garden, and that's, nobody's saying don't do that. So now you've got two components, something on the building and something on the park. But before we go to a vote, I would just leave it out there and let everybody also kick in their 2 cents. It's been 12 years that I can think of since anybody's been in that building from the public. I mean, it would be nice if somebody would say, hey, let's open it up and let people go in and see what the heck before you tear half of it down. My opinion. Anyone else? Mark?
No, the only point I was trying to make was not necessarily the funding to look between multiple options. We've got a motion that on a single option, but we know that at some point there's going to have to be some kind of a design process for whatever that Jewel option is, if that is what is decided this evening. So there's going to be some funding associated with that, and we just have to acknowledge that.
Yeah. And there's been some funding put into it. I don't know if we're going to get that from now forward, but I think your point at the very beginning is the correct one. You've got to make a decision, or people that would contribute to what we're doing won't. I mean, they don't know. And it obviously is something that Parks is going to have to put up with now. But to me, it shouldn't stop the garden. The garden, that is the worst I've seen that garden. I don't get more weeders out there. Building second, weed first. That's my opinion. But anyway, I don't have you on here, Scott. Did you want to chime in on this?
Well, let's call the question.
Okay, you heard him. We got a motion, Zafar, second, Veros. It is to do the jewel and proceed with the state historical. That about cover it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Armstrong,
No.
Councilmember Veros,
Yes.
Councilmember Safar,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Perkins,
No.
and Mayor Hudson.
Yes.
It's a 3-2 vote.
Okay, let's move on to the city manager comments, discussion of a cancellation of an August city council meeting.
Good evening.
Don't you like following that?
What's that?
Don't you just love following MUDs?
My favorite subject.
Go ahead.
I would just pose to the council that generally we go dark in August. Recommend, I believe, the first meeting in August is what would work the best, I think. But we can certainly make adjustments as necessary.
For clarification, you're recommending skip the first one or skip the second one?
Well, we can do either or, but I believe if there wasn't a strong opinion on either one, I think the first meeting.
Perkins.
Yeah, I agree with the first one. School is still out, or it's just coming back into session with the first meeting in August, the second Tuesday in August. And so staff members that are preparing reports and all the things that go with that, they get the time off from the second meeting in July until the second meeting in August. So I agree with the first meeting in August on the second Tuesday rather than the second meeting in August. I think that serves both council and staff better.
Just for clarification too, I think the staff is open to either one. I think the mayor had mentioned
number 2.
You were going to be on the second meeting, so the staff has been able, and so I got to stand corrected. The staff was aware that there may be a conflict for the second one. So the second meeting is actually, though we can do either one. The second meeting, staff did say that was that they were able to do that.
Let me jump in, not to pick on you, Scott, but I highly recommend skipping that second one. You go from the 10th to like the 13th or the 14th. And this has been, to me, an extremely difficult year for staff. Not all of them are going to work around school, but you've got an extra, it's 5 weeks before you'd have to work on a staff report. You'd have all of August, you're halfway into September. It happens to hit those days just perfect, where doing or skipping the second meeting has an extra bonus. And that's why I brought it up before. And a lot of it just depends on the work, but these guys have been taking vacation times. I give them a call and they're answering. They're working. If there's any way I can give them an extra time, it reminds me a lot of when we were talking about how Christmas hit on the exact right time where you seem like you're picking up an extra day. Well, that's what this August is to me. And a lot of people take some vacation time and just recharge where you don't have to have a face mask on a 5-hour flight or whatever it is, and take tests either way. To me, it actually hit at a very, very good time. I strongly recommend that you reconsider and go for that second week off, because I think we get a bonus.
My recommendation is to do what I think serves the staff better, because I'm not sure that the council, the five of us, it really matters a lot. If there's one of us that it matters something to, raise your hand. Otherwise, let's do what serves our staff best.
Yeah.
So for clarification,
So Mayor, just call it. Which one?
Oh, I'm
Mayor
waiting
Hudson,
for the,
I
I'm
believe
waiting
you had
for
a
the city
conflict, and
council-
that's so.
or the city manager stick his neck out there.
My neck is out. It was my understanding you had a conflict that second meeting anyway.
Me?
Yes.
Oh, no, that's just me saying I want to go on a cruise. That's, no, if you go for the first meeting, Scott, you got the second meeting. No, this is, Scott nailed it. This is about staff. What is the best interest? I mean, it's 5 weeks between a council meeting and staff reports and all this other kind of.
Yeah, there's 4 empty weeks. There's 4 empty weeks if you do it that way.
Yep.
Between 2 meetings and then 4 weeks off. So you got a big. Now, does that cause problems or does that solve problems?
Actually 5, Scott. It's that Tuesday works out perfect. 10th to whatever that thing is. Second.
Well, 17, 24, 31, and 7 is for 4 empty Tuesdays between. You're right. It's 5 weeks minus a day.
Okay, the second, just now for clarification, because council members going to have to decide. August 10th is our first meeting.
Right.
Okay, 17th is planning, 24th is city council that we're talking about counseling.
Yeah.
31st is an open Tuesday.
Yeah.
And the 7th is a planning commission, and then the 14th.
Right. So it's 5 weeks minus 1 day. Yes.
So.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
So it sounds like we're moving the second meeting in August.
My recommendation then would be then is if it's no preference to the council, we will come back next meeting and tell you what meeting in August we'll eliminate, if that's fine with the council, because we're capable of doing both. I need to check with the department heads to see which one is going to work best for the operation, and we'll come back. If you don't have a preference, we'll come back and let you know next meeting.
And then we'll talk about canceling that first meeting in September. Go ahead. All right. Anything else on that? I forgot where I'm at here. Is that good enough for everybody? That's the direction. I think we're all clear. What works for staff is best. It's just one of those anomalies, a 5th Tuesday that might work. And either way, it's going to be good. Okay. City council members. Public comment.
Whoa, time.
Yeah.
Does the city manager have any other comments?
You kidding?
No.
How long you been here?
Absolutely
That's the most he's talked to. All right, public
Wait,
comment.
city manager, would you have any comment on the in-person meeting with what's trending as June 15th?
So, it does look like there's some movement on June 15th. I think it appears that open meetings will be available, socially distanced. They're talking about removing social distance requirements even amongst vaccinated folks, but it looks like that we're there. So as we get closer, we'll take a look, but for sure we'll look at the second meeting in June, and if we're not completely set up and ready to roll, we'll move into the first meeting or so in July.
Okay. Good. Still working, not the second meeting in August? Okay. Any other comments for the city manager to grill him, or should we move on to public comment? At this time, those in the audience who have not previously spoken under the previous public comment are encouraged to address the city council any item not already included in tonight's agenda. Okay, if you have not previously spoken under public comment, please use the raise your hand feature on Zoom or dial 9 on your telephone. When it's your turn to talk, we'll call your name if provided. Remarks are limited to 3 minutes. We're thinning out the people, and a clock will be running on the Zoom screen. The speaker phone microphone will be muted once the allotted time has expired. Public comment is open. Is there anyone wishing to speak that has not spoken before? Seeing none, public comment is closed. City council members. Okay, Mark, you've got your mute unmuted. You're first.
Sure. I attended the teen council meeting on the 18th, but we already talked about teen council, so we'll move on to the next thing. I also attended on the 20th of May, I attended the MCE Executive Committee meeting. One of the things they brought up was they've got a youth engagement program. These are 3 to 6 month paid internships, and they have a focus on learning and development. They target seniors in high school or young college youth, young adults, and they're working to get the message out on that program through social media, through community-based organizations. There's some environmental and energy partners like the Canal Alliance and Marin Builders. They also have an intern onboarding and training program and a supervisor training as part of that. So it sounded like a great program for MCE for our youth to be able to participate in as well. And then the only other thing I'd add is just a note that, of course, we got Memorial Day coming up. A day to honor the military, the men and women that died in the performance of their duties. It's different from Veterans Day, in particular to honor those who died in battle or at least as a result of wounds sustained in battle. Sometimes those wounds are visible, sometimes those wounds are invisible. But it's a time to remember those that made the ultimate sacrifice for our country. And so, many of us are going to gather together with family and friends this weekend. And so let's keep the honor of these men and women in mind as we enjoy, just the freedom to be able to gather and have fun this weekend. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, Sridhar. We're not waiting for you to unmute.
Thank you, Mayor Hudson. I missed Santa Monica Historic Foundation meeting this week, so I don't have any committee meeting updates, but I do have one special event, hackathon organized by Santa Monica Community Residents event that is organized on Saturday. Let me check. Sorry, Sunday, May 30th. And the kickoff is at 8 a.m. The organizers, they sent an email to all council members. I think Mayor Hudson as well as Council Member Armstrong are planning to attend. This is for all council members. So please, if you have a time or chance, please swing by for flag off the event at our San Ramon Doughty station. And once again, thank you, Council Member Armstrong, for update on Memorial Day. Definitely that is very auspicious for us because all the sacrifices that are done because of which we are able to enjoy this freedom. So definitely it's a good time to remember our soldiers and veterans, and at the same time enjoy the great weather. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Sabina.
Thank you. So I had an opportunity to represent the city at an event organized by Donor Network West. So they had the Transplant Games of America flag that made it stop in San Ramon. And it was basically a flag signing ceremony because the mayor and the vice mayor could not be there. I was happy to represent. It was actually a pretty cool event. They had, the weather was beautiful. They had a DJ playing there. They had food, and then some of the people that work there. And there's about 300 employees that work for the Donor West network, and they're based right out of here in San Ramon. And one of the things, I want to bring back from that event is that a registered donor can save up to 8 lives through organ donation.
and heal up to 75 more people through tissue donation. So just, I promise them I will get the word out about you can register through the DMV. A lot of us can just check and become a donor, or you can go on the donorwestnetwork.org and register to be a donor there. So get a good event there. It was nice to see people finally. I've missed just going out and meeting people in the community. So I jumped at the opportunity of being out there. And so that was nice. I attended the Arts Foundation meeting, and one of the updates is that we will have concerts in the park. There's going to be 5 concerts starting July. They are looking for volunteers, although they were asking the Arts Foundation, but I guess if anybody wants to volunteer to help sell alcohol and raise money for the Arts Foundation, we would appreciate the help as well. One of the other things, so I was in Livermore a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed that they have something very similar to what we have in City Walk, and they posted the whole plan right smack in the middle of that downtown. And I wanted to steal that idea and see if that's something perhaps we can do. I know I've been taking some friends and walking them around there and telling them what our future looks like, how this is going to get built out. And I noticed that inside Bishop Ranch, they also have kind of the, the plan of what will be coming here. So I think it would be a great idea to kind of connect people with what's going to happen in the community and have that entire, master plan with City Walk master plan, which we reference out there, probably across City Center at the corner or something. We heard about climate action. I just want to make sure, we're going through the process of updating our climate action plan, and I think it's going to be one of the most significant updates that we do. California has already declared a drought year this year. We're already talking about the fire season being longer than it's normally been, and our residents, and especially youth, are continuously coming up and raising the issue of climate action. And thank you, Councilmember Armstrong, for talking about the MC internship. I think our young adults would be very interested in something like that. They're already, very informed and aware, and want to get more involved when, how do we move more towards clean energy? How do we save the planet? How do we make sure, we're paying attention to the climate? So I think that would be a good opportunity. I'll certainly look up the website and reshare that as well. So the point I want to make here is, let's just make sure we're really paying attention to our climate action plan. I know as part of that plan, we're going to get community input as well. So I just look forward to making sure we have a very robust, and it's not just a kind of a side item to our overall city plan, but it's something that we can reference, we can share with our residents and talk. And San Ramon is doing quite a lot as I start looking at the things we're doing in terms of our, our MCE with MCE, and how we're powering our city hall, and how we've basically negotiated our waste contract. Those are some of the things we're already moving towards, and making sure residents are also aware of the work we're doing, and it's part of the plan would be good. The one thing I wanted specifically for the mayor to reconsider would be the gun violence awareness proclamation that was put forward as declaring June 4th as Gun Violence Awareness Day. And just wanted to share some facts with you guys, because I've been very much paying attention to this, is that in an average year, gun violence in America kills 40,000 people, injures more than twice as many, and costs our nation $280 billion. Gun suicide claims the lives of 23,000 people in America every year. Nearly 2,000 of all gun-related deaths in the US are suicides. Firearm suicide rate in the US is 10 times higher than any other high-income country. And the rate of firearm suicide in rural areas is actually more than double than the rate in urban areas. And women in the US are 21 times more likely to be killed by guns than women in any other high-income countries.
By proclaiming June 4th as Gun Violence Awareness Day, we can bring attention to three things in our community. One is the red flag laws. Secondly, secure gun storage. And thirdly, the waiting period law. So just wanted to bring this up and make you aware that I think it is important that we talk about gun violence awareness and use this opportunity to make our residents aware of what's associated with gun violence, and it impacts our community as well. So those were all my comments.
Okay, Scott?
Last meeting, I neglected to report on the San Ramon Library Foundation. They have a operating expense budget of about $8,800 or about $8,400. The key elements of that is $1,000 for adult programs, $600 for teens, $2,400 for children programs, and $400 scheduled for the Story Walk program, plus $4,000 for the library materials. They're looking at the opportunity to spend some of their money on furnishings when the Dougherty Station Library and Dougherty Station Community Center work is being programmed. They're looking to spend some of their money on furnishings, specialty furnishings, not just, basic tables and chairs, but maybe some specialty furnishings in the children's area specifically. Second thing is, I want to thank Mark for bringing up about how important Memorial Day is and what it is. It's Memorial Day. It's not hot dogs and beer day. It's Memorial Day, and we blast right through it like it's just every other holiday, and we shouldn't. It is important and to recognize the sacrifice that so many have made. In the past, my Boy Scout troop would go to the Golden Gate National Cemetery and plant a few hundreds of flags with other Boy Scout and Girl Scout and other veterans groups would go to the cemetery and plant a flag at each of the graves. And let me tell you, the boys that go with us, it's not so much that they enjoy it, but they want to do it every year. They find it is meaningful to them to go and plant a flag on the grave of a fallen soldier. And so we schedule that every year until last year and this year. But we will be going again in the future because it is meaningful, and it does, it has an impact on the boys that attend. It's a very important day. And that's my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Staying on the Mark Armstrong moment, for he and I went to the Danville swearing in on the, gosh, was Sunday. My Sundays are shot now. A great event. It is nice to actually get to, people. What are they? I mean, they're not on Zoom. But I got to tell you, when you try and get out of those chairs after sitting there for 20 or 30 minutes to get up and give a speech, I didn't think I was going to make it to the microphone. Next year, you've got it, Mark. No. The climate action plan that we've been discussing during these council comments is proceeding. We're not waiting 2 years. It'll be done in 2 years. And we are not among the leaders. We are the leader. That's a long way from not doing anything. I don't know what else we can do. Scott sits on MCE. I sit on the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, every transportation committee that's out there. I actually, for doing nothing, then I guess I can skip my air district meeting tomorrow and the other one on Thursday. But, this is something that just, you keep staying with it and try to improve. I actually sent an email about some grants. I don't know if I sent it to you, Joe, or just now I bypass you and send it to Karen. There's a lot of money out there. We're trying to make the most of what we can, and we are ahead of everyone else. You heard hydrogen. earlier this evening, that is going to get more and more play, less and less for the electric, particularly with the buses. It just doesn't work. Scott pointed it out perfectly with the police. When do you charge if if you're all electric? So, it's not just the only answer. I think the weirdest thing I've heard was something tonight about drought tolerant. I mean, this city has been leading on drought tolerant since before we formed the teen council. I remember reading this stuff in the early to mid 90s where we jumped all over that and we're pulling out stuff and putting in, and we were one of the first to go after the recycled water down in Fountain Valley. I went down to see how it would work. This is something that San Ramon has been leading on and will continue to lead on forever. You got to remember, when you talk green, you're talking about efficiencies and conservation. So here you have a member of MCE, which is electric. That's 30% of the emissions. Every transportation, that's 38% of the emissions. And we're leading and trying to get things done. And that's why we've spread it out and have a member on Innovate 680 that isn't on the other transportation things. Mark is now getting on to the MCE. We're going to stay on top of efficiencies and conservation. I think two counties were mentioned, and that's why my ire is up a little bit tonight. Santa Clara and San Mateo. If you want to throw San Francisco in there, there's your problem, folks. When you add 2/3 of the jobs between now and 2050 in 3 counties, and you start reducing the amount of homes they can build or have to build when they're about 1 million homes behind, you got a bad formula going. And that's the RENA cycle this year. I think some good things were brought up of the sustainability. Natural gas is going to become a thing of the past in these buildings. They are going to go electric. The electric vehicles will continue to increase, but you will see more of the hybrids, I think, than just the electrics. And hydrogen is going to get in there. We have already talked to Gillig about doing it for the 680 Innovate 680 plan. The workshop that Mary Lou was talking about, that'd be interesting. I really don't know where to start the darn thing because legislation keeps changing as fast as a court reverses a decision. That's what I sent to you this evening, City Manager, that SB 35 was reversed out of Berkeley, where they thought because they were a charter city, you couldn't tell them how to do mixed use. Well, guess what? It just got reversed. So I don't think I'm as willing to go after a task force for citizens as much as I am what we've been doing, because we have connections directly in to the Air District, directly into MCE for the power that we're using. These are the major thrusts. I mean, the only other thing you could talk about is what was tonight, and that's the particulate matter from fires, which is the worst, and it never gets the attention it should. The fire season's already started. We're actually buying fireplaces. You could actually go to the Air District and get a grant to tear up your fireplace and get rid of it. That's how strong that is. So it isn't a question of we're not doing it. We're doing more than anyone else. I did take down to call Sarbani, and I will, and tell her what the feelings are on it. I had it to do it earlier, but between the 4 o'clock meeting and the 6:30 meeting, other people got a hold of me before she did, but I will call, and I've got somebody else tomorrow between meetings. Outside of that, I don't have anything more. In case somebody missed something, let me get on to the next more important thing, where I'm supposed to ask for a motion, but I'm not. We are adjourned to the next meeting, which will be held on June 8th, 2021. And I probably just gave the city attorney fits, but thank you all for coming this evening. I think there was a lot done, and on June 8th, we'll take care of the L&Ls. Thanks again, guys.